Very good noon, or very good morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Mark, and I'll be your moderator for today's Parent Lunch and Learn, or Dinner and Learn, or Snack and Learn, or whatever time of day it is that you're learning. I'm just going to take a few moments because the room is filling with attendees before I introduce our panel, and we'll get going on your questions and answers. I'm sure some of them will have some, I'm sure all of them will have some very great and useful information for you. And we'll be able to answer those questions. I invite you at any time today to enter your questions in the Q&A box. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen. It's got two quotation bubbles and a Q&A symbol. There's also a chat box. I encourage, we'll try and keep an eye on that, but we'll really be looking at the Q&A. So enter your questions at any time. We will do a brief round of introductions so that my wonderful colleagues here can introduce themselves and let you know who they are and what they do and why they're here today. And then we'll launch into the questions and answers. We know you have a lot of questions, and that's what we're here for. So we'll try and give as much time as we can to you in the coming minutes of this webinar. So on that note, I know we still have some people coming, but our time is limited, and I know yours is too. So I'm going to start this off by inviting my colleague, Curtis Michaelis, to introduce himself and what he does here at Mount Allison.
Thank you, Mark. So Curtis Michaelis, I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Coordinator at Mount Allison. So maybe your students are receiving email contacts from me at any point in time. I'm one of the representatives in the office, and I'm kind of representing the team here today. So any admissions related questions that you may have, I should be able to field those. And I'm happy to be here and at your service.
Thanks so much, Curtis. So when you apply for admission at Mount Allison, one of the great things is your application for admission is also your application for scholarships. And I know many of you will be interested in knowing about scholarships. And so for that, I'll invite Liz Fullerton.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Fullerton, the Financial Aid and Awards Counselor for Mount Allison. Within this role, we facilitate the bursary program and the scholarship program through MA. So any student entering Mount Allison, as Mark alluded to, doing a admissions application, that application is also going to be considered for the spectrum of scholarships that we have at the university. We do offer a separate bursary application that will come later in your admission cycle, and I can speak to questions about bursaries. Our office also facilitates helps with student loans, with US loans if we have any American friends here with us. We do facilitate the FAFSA, the US direct student loans through the university, so you can take that money with you here. We also administer VA funding, VSAC funding, and a few different items. And in general, we're the spot that you come to if you have questions about your budget or need help with budgeting, or questions about your accounts, anything like that. Those type of questions, you can field your student to me or yourself to me with questions later.
Thank you so much, Liz. Now, one of the great things about coming to a small university like Mount Allison is students are very well supported. So everyone here in today's panel provides support to our students without exception. And many of us are actually housed in the same building so that we centralized all of that support in one place. And so I'm going to introduce some of those people, and I'll start with Adam Christie, who's our Director of Student Life and International Affairs. I should let you introduce yourself so I get your title right, but go ahead, Adam.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. My name is Adam Christie, and I'm the Director of Student Life and International Affairs. And my portfolio covers a number of areas that are student facing. And I think that students will I first come in contact with new students through the orientation process. So I work very closely with our Students Union in getting ready for the new student welcome and orientation. I also manage the international office, so that supports international students in, but also facilitates opportunities for students to have international experiences out. I work closely with colleagues on the housing side in providing support to students in residence and facilitating opportunities for student leadership within our residence system. And I also work very closely with the Mount Allison Students Union in overseeing and providing opportunities for student engagement and involvement through clubs and societies. So those are all areas that I feel comfortable tackling and answering questions for. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And of course, one of the very important things that you do when you come to this university, or what your child will do, is study. and learn in and out of the classroom. And for that, it's important that we have some strong supports in place as well. So I'd like to introduce Shelley Collette so she can talk about some of this.
Hi, thank you, Mark. My name is Shelley Collette, and I am the manager of academic support. I oversee programming that supports students who are struggling. So I work alongside the math department and the physics department and the computer science departments to help support those support centers. I oversee the writing resource center. I provide programming for students who are doing well and want to do better as well. And I also run some first generation student programming. So if your child is the first generation in their family to go to university, then I would be the person that they would come to see to get some support with the ins and outs of university academics.
Great, thanks so much, Shelley. So also when your child is with us at the university, your offspring, we want to make sure that they're in great shape as they go through their experience. We want to make sure that they are well and that they're well supported regardless of what their needs are. So on that note, I'd like to welcome Matt Maston.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Maston. I'm the Director of Accessibility and Student Wellness here at Mount A. And two major parts of my portfolio are managing the MEAN Center, which is the accessibility center on campus, so accommodating and supporting students with disabilities. And I also oversee the Wellness Center, which is our health center on campus. And in that center, we have a nurse, we have a doctor that comes regularly, we have 2 counselors on campus, and we also have mental health outreach position that does that piece. Yeah, so I'm excited to hear any questions you have.
Great, thank you so much, Matt. Earlier, I mentioned that we learn inside the classroom and outside of it in many ways, and we also want to make sure that students are well prepared for whatever comes after Mount Allison too. So I'd like to invite Rebecca Lehman to talk a bit about how her office supports those goals.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Lehman, and I'm the Director of Experiential Learning and Career Development at Mount A. Our office handles a lot of outward-facing opportunities for students. So if they're looking for employment or career readiness programs, we do everything from resume review to the job search. And we have a lot of other programs that students can tap into while they're here to kind of prepare for life after Mount A. We do career advising. We help students with grad school prep applications, and we also run internship programs for students. So these are paid part and full-time internships that seem to be a big hit. They're growing every year in number and in student interest. So it's a really exciting experiential learning opportunity for students to be able to get paid work in a community or partner organization that really ties in what they're studying with their career goals and aspirations. And so we're quite proud of our internship program. And yeah, so we're here to support students as well. And we are also located in the student center and welcome drop-ins and students at all stages of their career and academics. So that's us.
Thank you so much. And of course, when you come here, you earn credits toward your degree, and someone's got to keep track of that and make sure that they keep you in line and that they assist you in keeping yourselves in line. And so I'd like to invite Sarah Kardash to talk a little bit about what our registrar's office does with your students.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sarah Kardash. I'm the Associate Registrar, Student Records and Services in the Registrar's Office. So I'm responsible for things like course registration, exams, the academic calendar, which is probably the most important document on campus, all the important dates, deadlines, events, academic regulations, degree and program requirements, and course descriptions. I'm also the person who emails students with reminders about all these important things. So your student will get lots of emails from me, and it is important to remind your student to be checking their Mount Allison email regularly, especially once they're admitted to the university. That is the official means of communication from the registrar's office. Yeah, and there's a lot we're doing in the registrar's office, academic advising. So we have 2 academic advisors. One serves students in arts programs. The other one serves science and commerce students. You've already heard from Elizabeth about financial aid, awards, student loans. We handle fees and payments, transfer credits, again, course registration. We offer a registration help desk. Confirmation of enrollment letters and forms, release of information consent form is an important one for parents to know about. Once your student begins their studies at Mount Allison, we are very limited in what we can communicate to parents because of privacy and confidentiality rules. So if there is information that your student wants you to be able to access about them, they need to submit a consent to release information form. But we never release grades, or usernames or passwords. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we do here in the registrar's office. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And last but certainly not least on this panel, if your child is coming to Mount Allison, they will need a place to live, and a great place to live at that. So I'd like to introduce Ryan Gallant.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining us today. So as Mark mentioned, my name is Ryan Gallant. I'm the manager of housing services here at Mount Allison. So I interact with incoming students through the application process for residents, room assignments, welcoming them here on move-in day, lots of emails from our office in housing as well, in terms of applying for residents and important deadlines that I'm sure we'll talk about on today's session. Also, responsible for relations with our dining hall here on campus. So if there's any questions related to meal plans, dietary restrictions or requirements, I can answer all of those as well.
Thank you so much. And so thank you to all of our panel for joining us today and for sharing all of your services and what you do with everyone. I would like to invite our attendees who are joining us today to pop your questions into the Q&A box. I see some questions starting to arrive, and so we'll get straight to them. And I'm actually going to start with you, Ryan, because you did mention that there are some important deadlines in the process. So can you just talk a bit about what some of those key deadlines are for students who are looking at living in residence?
Yeah, so we have what's called early bird room assignments, and there's a few deadlines that are important for that. The first date to keep in mind is November 1st. November 1st is when our residence application opens for the 2022-2023 academic year. So it will open at 8 a.m. on November 1st. For students to be included in the early bird room assignments, they need to complete 3 steps before March 1st. Those 3 steps are completing the online application, which includes a $50 application fee, paying their registration deposit for Mount Allison University, and paying their $500 residence deposit to Mount Allison University. So if those 3 steps are included by March 1st, your student will be among the first students to get their room assignment in late March. If you're included in that early bird round, your room assignment is based on the date that you pay your registration deposit. So that's how the list is prioritized. When students complete the application process, they're asked to rank their room preference, so room type and building. We have 8 different buildings on campus for first year students. So they're asked to rank that during the application process. And then as long as all 3 steps are completed by March 1st, they're prioritized by the date that they paid their $100 registration deposit, and then room assignments will be sent out in late March.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive overview, Ryan. So we do have some more questions coming up here. One question from James, who says, good afternoon. So good morning to you, James. James's daughter is currently a high school junior in the United States, and they would like to visit Mount Allison in the first few weeks of June. So Kurt, I'll ask you, are classes in session at that time? And if so, is it possible for her to sit in on a class? And also, I'm sure everybody's wondering, if you are planning to come and visit Sackville, which we highly recommend if you can, where do you recommend that our guests stay?
I'm sure lots of people have opinions on that. I'll start with the question about courses in June. So there is a spring and summer session that is offered at the university, but the class kind of delivery is often not, the same as you would see in the fall and winter And we don't typically have our campus visitors participate in classes during the spring and summer session. It's hard to say exactly at this point in time, depending on what courses are going to be offered. So it is a possibility. If it is possible, we'll certainly accommodate that, and would just encourage anyone who's booking a tour to provide the information that they would like to receive in an ideal setting, and we will accommodate everything that we're able to. So the more lead time you can give us about when you're arriving, that's always helpful. But typically within a few days notice, we can have everything set up for you for your visit. So we're delighted that you're planning to visit, and it's a beautiful time in Atlantic Canada to visit in June. So we'll look forward to that, and please stay in touch. All information available at mta.ca/visit. In terms of the accommodations, you don't tend to find your big chain hotels in Sackville. There's a Coastal Inn, which was more of a modern kind of hotel chain in the Atlantic region that would have all the amenities you might expect of a typical hotel chain. Often its bed and breakfasts are kind of more quaint and enjoyable to visit. There's lots of Airbnb options. So there's plenty of accommodation options in the region. And, while you are in the region in the summertime, the Maritimes is known for its tourism. So you may want to stay somewhere else and take in some other activity as well. So have a look around. If you do want some advice, we can always help with that. And if anyone else has a suggestion, they can chime in. And I think probably Liz is the best person to answer your second question. So maybe I'll open that up to Liz now.
And so just for those who are listening and maybe not watching, that second question is, does Mount Allison accept tuition fee and or housing payments from US 529 savings plans?
Yeah, so the great question, and I won't be able to answer it thoroughly. Mount Allison hasn't received recently a lot of payments from the 529 savings plan, whether it's the prepaid one or the education savings plan. So you'll want to check with the provider to see if it can come to go to foreign institutions, if that can be withdrawn from your plan and be brought here. If it's similar to Canadian RESPs or sponsored the same products that we offer in Canada, it really is up to the holder and the student and the person that holds the plan, so the parent, to go facilitate accessing those funds and transferring them out and sending them to the institution. We don't facilitate the withdrawal for you from your 529 savings plans. So, but I would really recommend that you talk to the holder of your 529 saving plan to find out what you're permitted to do and if you can take it cross border out of the US. Okay.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We also have the questions are continuing to come in. Thank you so much. DJ asks, do we offer exam writing support for students that struggle with writing exams? And this kind of falls between a couple of people on our panel. So I'm going to start by looking at Shelley Collette to help us out with that.
So I would defer to Matt, who supervises the Meehan Center with that, because unless students have specific accommodations for exam writing support, then they won't really get support within the exam. However, we do offer a lot of review sessions and group tutorials and support leading up to the exams. But I would defer to Matt about the question about in the actual exam proper.
Go ahead.
I can hop in. So yes, if a student has a disability and is registered with the Meehan Center, disability or medical condition, which we can talk about a bit later as well, or you can reach out to me if you have specific questions, then yes, we would offer exam writing support potentially. And it kind of depends on, what the limitations are, but it would be support through our center and actually writing the exam. But as Shelley said, her office puts on some workshops and stuff, and we also sometimes do more general outreach about how to maybe tackle exams in the best way and that sort of thing.
Thank you so much. Now Noel is asking, are all first-year students guaranteed a place in residence in their first year, and what percentage of first-year residence places are single accommodation rooms? So what percentage of those rooms would be single rooms? And I'll ask Ryan to step in here.
Yeah, so we do have a first year guarantee until June 1st. So students who apply for residence and complete all necessary steps for an assignment by June 1st are certainly guaranteed a bed on campus. As far as the breakdown of room types, we have about 60 to 70% of our room types are single, leaving the remaining 30 to 40% double or a handful of triple room types across campus.
Thank you so much. I do want to actually step over for a second and ask a question of Adam Christie. So Ryan manages the housing supply that we have. Adam's office oversees the residence life experience in concert with his team. So there is a question about, for a student who's planning to live in residence, what kinds of supports are available to those students, and are they just left to their own devices, or what's there for them?
Sure, thanks for the question, Mark. So as Ryan referenced, we have 8 principal residences across campus for students to choose from. And, they're anywhere from, if we look at the smallest, which would be available to upper year students who've lived in residence a number of years, anywhere from 20 students all the way up to about 180, 200, up to 200 students. Ryan can correct me. But so there's all room types and all residence sizes. But the residences really are a student's home away from home, and they quickly become they're a new community. And this is where a lot of friendships happen, and those friendships will continue over time, obviously, and in some cases translate into off-campus roommate situations later on in their time at the university. But resident students are well supported by the teams that are in residence, and so that starts with, we have 2 live-in residence life coordinators. These are Mount Allison staff who live in residence and who are tasked with leading programming for resident students. Many of our residences have dons. These are Mount Allison staff or people who have a connection to the university who live in adjacent or attached apartments, and so they are an additional resource to students living in residence. We have our residence assistants and our house executives. So these are student positions, opportunities for student leadership, and they are typically upper year students who are looking to make the residence year or residence life experience as fun and as fulfilling and as supportive and welcoming as possible for all new students. We also have academic mentors. And so one of the benefits of living in residence is that we have these upper year students who are academically inclined and come alongside students to help with their transition to academic life in a university setting. And they will work closely with someone like Shelley, for example. And they will also help to facilitate group tutoring sessions, which happen in residence, as well as a lot of other pop-up support sessions that happen exclusively for those resident students. So it's quite a strong framework of support for students, and it's a built-in, ready-made community. A lot of students are very proud of their houses, and that pride translates very quickly into new students as they make themselves at home.
Thanks so much. And a follow-up question, I think probably for Ryan. James asks, do students have the option of living in residence for all 4 years?
Yes, absolutely. So as Adam mentioned, there's a lot of leadership opportunities in residence for students who want to come back. And we also, appreciate students coming back to residence. So their application for residence is much different than a first year student. So as a returner to residence, you kind of get first dibs on the room that you want. So we just actually opened room draw earlier this week for our students who are already here for next year. So they get to log into what we call our housing portal, and they get to choose any available room on campus. So they've spent their first year here. A lot of students will book the same room again. Next year they're settled in, they like their room, they like where they're at, so they'll book it again for next year. But certainly we have students who do live in residence for all 4 years of their time with us.
Thanks so much, Ryan. And just before we move on, I just want to acknowledge there's a question from Ravana there that Kurt stepped in to respond to. So she asked, how long does it take to walk from one end of the campus to the other? And Kurt accurately says, I think you can make it across it as a casual saunter in 5 minutes. I just want to put up behind me a visual of our most of our town, I should say, about half of the town. So you can see not only the campus there, but I just want to show how integrated we are with the town. So the campus is right here in the middle of town. Just over here, I don't know, my finger seems to disappear when I point at it, but is our, what we would call downtown, where all of our, or the majority of our shops and services are located for students. It's about a 4-minute walk from the student center, so it's very close. And we've talked about housing options and the fact that some students will ultimately move off campus, many students, in fact, over the course of their 4 years from residence into the community. And so when they do, they basically move across the street. So you see some very lovely residential neighborhoods here and down here where I'm sitting right now. These are very nearby, they're very affordable. And so it really, really is a walking community, which as someone who came from a much larger place, I really enjoy the fact that things were so close together and that students don't lose a lot of time going from place to place over the course of the day. So they're really able to fit even more into their schedule, and it sort of lends itself to that support, because you can't walk from one end of campus to the other, or you can't walk from campus to downtown without running into a whole bunch of supportive friends and colleagues that know you along the way. So we have another question from DJ, who asks, if a student currently has adaptations in school and requires some additional supports at Mount Allison, what type of documentation is required? Matt, could you step in here?
Sure. So I would say it really does depend. For a student with a learning disability, we do require a psychoeducational assessment. For other disabilities or medical conditions, I mean, what we're looking for is a diagnosis and some information from a medical professional on the limitations that the student has and how we can support them here at university. I think the real important thing is to get in touch with the Meehan Center early on, like in early summer or late spring is usually a good time, and to kind of send us some information on, some information that you might have from school or from the medical professional that your child works with. We do also have forms that are meant to make it a little easier, that kind of ask the questions we're looking for. So you can sometimes bring those to the medical professional and then get those back to us. And we do run a pre-orientation as well, which is students can arrive early to campus if they register with the Meehan Center. So again, getting that sort of information to us and registering that student is good to get done early, because sometimes there's a little bit of email back and forth about what we receive, what else we might need to know, and that sort of thing. And the last piece is this information is available on our website, and I've asked Mark to put that link out to everyone, so you can also find more information there or reach out to us at any time.
Thanks, Matt. So you'll find that link straight to the registration form there in the chat, and I've also dropped in a quick link to the Meehan Center, the homepage for the center, so that you can access that as well. Benjamin asks about campus employment. So is campus employment generally available to first-year students, or is it more the case that students would line up jobs in the spring term that start in the following year? Becky, do you want to share the answer to that question, please?
Sure. I would suggest that there's quite a blend of both. A lot of our first year students are successful in finding employment on campus, especially in like our dining services or possibly kind of in other roles. So if they are on campus and they're looking for something, they should visit our office early on. We'll make sure they know where the online job board is that they can access, that will have all the opportunities listed. And then towards the end of their first year, we do start seeing advertisements for some roles for the coming year. So it is a mix of opportunities for sure. And as Mark kind of showed, like our community is very tight. Like we are very closely integrated with the community as well. And so there's often a lot of potential employment opportunities in the town of Sackville and small businesses or that hire students every year. So we also kind of try to do our best to keep track of those as they come up. And those are also all located on our new experiential portal that we just launched in the last year. And all students have access to the job board all the time. So hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I have a question here that I'm going to direct to Sarah in the registrar's office. So a student is trying to decide between the arts or the sciences. If they start in the arts, is it possible for them to switch into the sciences after their first year, or should they go the other way, or what do they need to do?
Thanks for the question, Mark. It's a good one. Yeah, so I mean, we do have many students who arrive for their first year who are undecided about what program they want to follow. So that's not an unusual place to be, and in fact, it can be a bit of a gift. So, first year is designed to be flexible, to give students the option to explore what we have on offer here in terms of courses and programs, take things they know they love, but try new things as well. So definitely, if your student is trying to decide between arts and science, it's definitely possible to take a good mix of arts and science courses in first year. I would just suggest that it's really important for the student to seek academic advising through the registrar's office to ensure that they are covering especially those core science courses that do tend to need to be taken in first year to progress through the science program in a timely manner. So for example, if they know if it's biology that they really love, well, there's sort of 3 core biology courses that really should be taken in first year. So an advisor can help the student sort of determine which science courses to prioritize to keep that option open. But students are not required to declare a major or minor until the end of second year. And we do have established processes for students who are requesting to change degree programs. There are, if you're transferring from arts into science, there are some requirements that need to be met in order to do so. You have to kind of cover some core science courses and show that you can, be academically successful in them. But yeah, that's definitely something we see happening, and with careful planning, it's no problem.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So James asks, what kind of public transportation is available for students? And is getting a car recommended or discouraged? Kurt, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of public transportation, as you saw from our overhead view, it wouldn't make much sense to have, say, a public bus system in Sackville. What we have is a fairly affordable local cab service, taxi service, that generally, $12 is going to get you anywhere to the outskirts of town, and a little cheaper if you're just going in town. Depending on the rates that year, but it's quite affordable to get around that way if needed. There's also a bike co-op offered through the student union. So if you're more inclined to jump onto 2 wheels and get to your destination that way, you put a small deposit down and you don't need to have a bike of your own. It's a good way to share resources in the community. Like we said, most things are walkable. What tends to happen in practice is students find the friends who have cars, your roommates, someone at the house tends to have a vehicle, or you have a friend. So if you need to go do a grocery run, maybe outside of Sackville to one of the bigger grocery stores in a neighboring town, that's what tends to happen. When it comes to transportation at peak travel times in the year, there are often services offered through the student union for bus shuttles. In terms of international students arriving through air transportation, we have like an airport pickup service for students that are registered for our international orientation event. So at those times when students can kind of expect to be going back and forth to airports to get to their home destinations, there's usually some kind of thing offered through the university or the student union. But again, the cab service is there. It's not that inexpensive, or it's not that expensive, to take a cab to the airport. I think the rate, if I recall now, it's been a while since I've flown actually, but I think the last time I did so, it was $80 flat rate. So that's, usually as students will get around. In terms of having a car, I had one in my 4th year of study, and it was nice to have. It was convenient. I was one of those friends that was able to help my friends get around town easier, but it wasn't needed. I got on just fine in the first 3 years without it. So, there's a lot of ease of having a vehicle here. Parking is free within town. Students will get a parking pass and can keep their vehicle. There's not as many restrictions that you might see at some US undergraduate campuses with students being able to leave, and in big cities, just the kind of parking struggles that the big city downtown campuses go through. You really just don't find that here. So it's convenient to have a car, but absolutely not necessary.
As one of those people who had friends with cars but didn't have his own car, I'll vouch for that. Absolutely. I think it's a really great opportunity for students to live in a small place at that, where they do not need a car and where it's easy to get around. I'll also say, as someone who traveled a lot on the plane because I came from far away to come to Mount Allison, yes, we do have the organized shuttles at certain times of year, but at high traffic times of year when people are coming and going, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, often it's just a matter, you can organize a ride and find someone to share that $80 cab with you to go to the airport, because close to half of our students use the airport to come and go. And then on your way back, what I always suggest is you wear something that says Mount Allison on it so people can see you. You'll probably know them anyway, but you'll see them at the gate when you're boarding, or you'll see them on the plane, or you'll see them at the luggage carousel, and you can arrange to share a taxi right then and there. So it's really like, you get to know everybody here. That's the thing. When we're just over 2,000 people, you'll know the people that you see. And so it's not like you're getting in with a total stranger. You're getting in with a community member and a peer and a colleague as well. There is a follow-up question to that. So if a student brings a car, is there a parking permit cost, and are there designated parking locations? I'll throw that back to you, Kurt.
Sure. So no cost for the parking permit, but because it's student only parking in, say, the residence parking lots, overnight parking, I should say, you'll find staff parking there throughout the days. But for the overnight parking, students would just register their car and put the parking permit or the parking pass on their vehicle, and that would just ensure that their vehicle wasn't towed away. But it's all free, so that's really nice and convenient for students.
And Kurt, I'll stick with you for this next question. So for a student who's thinking about coming in 2023, so in 23 months from now, is there a best time aside from summer 2022 that is a good time to visit? And maybe can you just speak to a good time to visit for any students, regardless of when they're thinking about starting?
Yeah, I think it's maybe just knowing what is possible at different times in the year and what you want to get out of the visit. Naturally, if you want to see campus in action in the kind of busier fall and winter terms, it's nice to come during those times. And if you come during, say, a weekday, you're going to see, students attending class, kind of milling about campus. You have some of those opportunities perhaps to attend an intro class lecture, to maybe meet with a faculty member and admissions counselor a bit more easily during the work week. So in an ideal world, I think it's nice for students to get the true, authentic Mount Allison experience on a day-to-day basis, to come during a weekday during the fall or winter term. We recognize that isn't always possible, and so you just perhaps can do other things on the weekends. There's lots of student activities happening. Sometimes there's sporting events. Sometimes there might be, other campus activities happening that students are welcome to often participate in, assuming there's no public health restrictions restricting that at the time. So you might get a feel for kind of the vibe of campus or the culture here through experiencing a student event or activity. When it comes to the summer, it's really then going to be somewhat dependent on, staff availability for faculty. Some faculty will be on campus, some may not. And that would be the same. Typically, we're going to have admission staff available throughout the year. So you should always have that opportunity to have a guided campus tour through one of our current student ambassadors, as well as a meeting with an admissions counselor, if that's something you want. And then in the summer months, like I said, there's other great opportunities within the region to participate in. There's lots of festivals and kind of fun things that happen in the region. You just may anticipate the campus not being quite fully operational in the sense it would be in the fall and winter terms during the summer months. But with the warm weather, it's a lovely time to visit as well. And you'll certainly get a lot of attention during the visit because it is a bit quieter. So those who you meet on campus, I'm sure, will be happy to stop and chat and give you some information.
Thanks, Kurt. So there's a question about paid internships. And Becky, I'll look at you for this one. Are paid internships easy to come by at Mount Allison? And what should students be looking out for when these opportunities arise?
Sure. So paid internships, easy to come by is, you have to be prepared and have a great resume and a good application and have a strong sense of what you are looking for as a student interested in internship. And our office can help you with all of that, of course. But our internship programs are growing. So what we have is part-time internships in fall and winter term, and then full-time summer placements. They do tend to be for, students in their upper years, the third and fourth, although we do have lots of second year students who apply as well. There's no real kind of criteria around that beyond what a particular host or employer might be looking for in a student's skill level or academic experience or knowledge coming into it. It is open to all students from all degrees in general. So what students should be thinking about when they arrive, and if they know that they want to take advantage of one of these opportunities, is they should be, checking out some of our preparation programs that we offer. Like I said, writing a good resume. They should be looking for opportunities to kind of like volunteer or beef up, their application a little bit in advance. And just keep an eye on their emails, because we do send it out to all students when applications open for each term, and we try to support students through the process as much as we can to get them a good experience at some point during their degree.
Thanks so much, Becky. So now a question that is near and dear to my heart after my experience at Mount Allison, but James asks, are there study abroad and or intern abroad opportunities? And how many students would you say participate? Adam.
This question follows nicely on Becky's piece around internships, because there are domestic internship opportunities, but there are also international internship opportunities, and students who have an interest in building an international dimension into their degree have a lot of choices here at the university. And so and maybe Becky wants to take that one on again, just about the international internship piece. But so that is one angle, but there are, the more traditional outlets, which include exchange programs and study abroad programs, faculty-led group study programs. So there are a number of opportunities available to students. We have over 30 exchange partners that with whom we facilitate those one-for-one or bilateral exchange arrangements. We have group study programs, so we've to India, to Italy. We're looking at adding to Korea, to the Netherlands, and to Belize. And so the International Center at mta.ca/international is really the hub for all of that information. We also have a number of clubs and societies which are internationally focused, and so students will plug into a club that is whose work is really near and dear to their heart. So you think about Habitat for Humanity, they will often do an international build somewhere. Global Brigades, we have students who've been going to Global Brigades to Honduras for the past 10 years. So I would say that the total number of students who are participating in some form of an international experience is probably it's about 100, 120 per year in normal times and non-COVID times. Obviously we've had to think about new ways to have or offer those international experiences. So we've had online exchanges, we've had COILs, which are collaborative online international learning experiences. So students can have those collaborations virtually. It doesn't fully replace the in-person experience, but we are looking forward to when we can go back to offering those in-person experiences.
Thank you so much, Adam. So Shelley, I'm going to look at you and ask for your input here, because regardless of whether you're coming from down the street or Dubai or wherever, it is different here than where you're coming from or where your student is coming from. So many students will struggle with their transition from high school to university here or at any other university. So Shelley, what kinds of academic supports would you say are available to those students who are struggling as they make that transition? We'd love to hear what you have to say, so you'll probably have to turn your microphone on.
There we go. Yes, so many supports. So as I mentioned earlier, I work alongside the math department who run a math help center. We've got a physics help center. We've got a comp sci help center. We've got an econ help center for students who are struggling in a lot of those higher enrollment courses that maybe throw students for a loop. So there's a lot of course specific supports that are available to students. We also offer writing support for all fields. So if your child is concerned about, you know, a university paper and what that's going to look like, we have programming for that. So workshops and one-on-one support is available. And we also offer Mount Allison and Student Affairs as a team do a number of soft interventions throughout the academic year. So for instance, right now in October, professors can flag students that they think might be struggling in their courses, and a member of our team is going to reach out to that student, find out what's going on, and then try and find the supports that will help them. And that might mean peer tutoring, it might mean regular appointments with one of the many help centers, or it might mean enrollment in a study skills series. Right, so we offer a number of study skills workshops for time management and how to study and how to take an exam and how to write a paper and all of these things that students sometimes struggle with in the transition. So that's, yeah, the great thing about a small school like Mount A, and one of the things that I found very charming and helpful when I first came to work here was that because it's so small, we can develop programming to suit the needs of the students that are in front of us. So if I see that I've got a student or two or three that need a particular type of support that we don't offer, because we're so small, we're able to develop it. And I think that's one of the main benefits of a small school like Mount A. Before I jump off though, I also want to address a point that Rebecca had mentioned, that a lot of these internships, students need to build a strong CV and should be looking for volunteer activities to help build that CV to make them competitive for those really good internships. A great way to do that is to join the student academic societies. So if your child is interested in psych, in doing a psych degree, they should join the Psych Society or the Econ Society or the Chem and Biochem Society. All of these societies engage in, they build events and programs that give students the opportunity to make connections within the field, to become visible to their professors, and to do that kind of volunteer work that can then make them competitive for other opportunities.
Thank you so much. See, I love the way that our team works together here. That's what we're doing. We're here to support your students. Kurt, I'll ask you to step in once again. We have a question here about American Advanced Placement or AP exam results. I'll also throw into the mix International Baccalaureate, IB, or British A-levels results. Can those be applied toward course credit or advanced placement when students come?
Yeah, so more and more schools nowadays, certainly AP is very common in the US curriculums that we see, you know, across states, but more and more Canadian institutions are also offering advanced placement courses or IB courses, some form of course that might be equated at the equivalent of a Mount Allison first year course. And so in certain cases, students are able to receive credit for courses completed in high school. In some cases, students might even be completing local college courses or university courses. We offer this for our local students at Tantramar High, where they're taking a Mount Allison course. And this year, all New Brunswick students are actually given this opportunity at the New Brunswick institution. So if you're essentially have a student who's doing a course that would be considered equivalent to a first year university course through AP, IB, or through an actual college or university, the best thing to do is provide your transcript for that course with the result. In the case of AP specifically, an exam score of 4 or 5 can equate to a transfer credit being awarded at Mount Allison. You can award a total of 30 transfer credits and arriving with second year status at Mount Allison for an incoming student. So for students that are completing the IB diploma program, they would have scored a score of 5 or higher on every single subject taken, which can be challenging, but for those students who do that, the incentive and reward is a full year of possible transfer credits, 30 credits, and starting at second year status. It's rare for students to do 10 AP courses. However, if a student is particularly motivated to do so, they could have all 10 of those AP courses assessed. So if you want more information, there are 2 good sources of information that help provide this information: mta.ca/advanced standing. Just as it sounds, advanced standing, and that has lots of information about transfer credits. There it is in the chat. And another one specifically for IB, just knowing we do attract a lot of IB students, mta.ca/IB, and it has a really good overview of equivalent credits through IB. Knowing that those transcripts sometimes come a little bit later into the summer, and in many cases are accessed through an online portal. It's just important that students indicate through, say, the International Diploma granting, the IBO organization, or with their advanced placement, that they're attending Mount Allison, so that we can have access to those. And if you have copies of your transcripts yourself, you can certainly send them in. But in many cases for transfer credit, we will require an official transcript received directly from the issuing institution or organization. So just keep that in mind. And those transfer credits will then be assessed after we've received that official transcript. So it can take some time, in many cases before or much after the course registration process opens. So just be mindful of this, that you might not know all of your transfer credits at the time course registration opens, but you will, if you follow the timelines appropriately, you would have that information in almost all cases before you begin your studies at Mount A.
Thank you so much, Kurt. The clock is ticking toward 1 p.m. here in New Brunswick, so that means our time is almost up. I'm going to make a final call. If anyone has any more burning questions, this is the time to put them into that Q&A box, bearing in mind that we're here to support you after this session concludes as well. So you can reach out to us at admissions. So I'd say if you take only one address away with you today at this point in time, I would say make sure that you take down this one right here, given that the phase where we are, admissions@mta.ca can connect you with information. And we can connect you with all the wonderful people on the screen, most of whom have snazzy email addresses like admissions and financial aid, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry, Liz, to give away the game there. Now you're going to get lots of email. I do still have another question here, and maybe I'll ask you to weigh in again, Kurt, because I know you get to talk about this a lot, and I know that we ask about average class size, but can you talk about what class sizes are like for first-year students?
Yeah, so it is a bit of a nuanced question in the sense that, it can be dependent by the program, the department that a student is studying in, an average class size. So, an introductory, say biology or psychology or maybe sociology, some of our kind of larger departments that have larger introductory course classes, the maximum you would ever see is just over 200, because that's the largest sit-down auditorium that we have at Mount A for a classroom. So it's never going to be, very much larger than 200 in an intro class, but I'd say that's even quite rare. In other departments, intro classes are going to be much smaller. So it's difficult to give a straight number that would represent all departments, but I believe 60% of our courses have 30 students or less across all 4 years. And what tends to happen in the liberal education model is once students make that choice, there's a lot of exploration happening in those first years. So you'll see science students that are taking arts courses, you'll see art students that are taking science courses at the intro level. Once students start to make their decisions and they choose their majors and minors, you really see that class size drastically reduce in size in your upper years, in particular 3rd and 4th year, to the point where in some cases you might be doing an independent study directly with your professor one-to-one. This is actually fairly common for an upper year student. So you know, as the time comes and you start to determine your program, we talk with our faculty regularly, and they're really happy to speak with prospective students, which is not always a common occurrence, but they know the students coming into their departments are going to be students they're going to be working closely with. So we encourage students not to be shy to contact our academic faculty and have some of these conversations about what kind of life is like inside a department and what they can expect. And I think they'll get some really good insight and even put themselves on a professor's radar before you even arrive, which can lead to some really fantastic opportunities for you as a student as you move through a degree program. So we always just encourage students, don't be shy. Again, admissions can connect you if you're unsure exactly where to go, but throughout this open house, you know, your student will have lots of opportunity to connect with academic faculty and ask some of these questions too. So I'd encourage them to do that.
Thanks so much, Kurt. I just want to take a moment before we wrap up today to acknowledge a comment that Adam made in the chat box. I think it's really important to point out here. So Adam commented that one of the advantages of attending a smaller university like Mount Allison is that there are shorter lines to getting involved and participating in programs. Fewer students means more opportunities for leadership and greater access to application-driven processes like study abroad and exchange programs. This is true here, and it's true across the board. And I want to really drive that home before we part ways today. One of the benefits of the scale of this university is that your student will have access to all these people on the screen and all the people that work with them when they need the support that they require. I don't want to knock on our larger cousins, but the average university in Canada has more than 10 times the undergraduate enrollment of Mount Allison University. They're great schools, but that means that when your student needs support or they're trying to get to an opportunity, there may be more people in line in front of them to get there. I have a student who's here at this, I don't have him, he's not mine, but we have a student at the school who I recruited to join us, who was looking at a couple of, sorry, I'm trying to be anonymous. It doesn't matter, they're great schools. A couple of universities in our nation's capital, there are two. And he said, I want to be prime minister one day. And I said, that's great. The province of Ontario has about 20 times the population of ours. They have one premier, we have one premier. When I was a student here, I was able to go on the exchange program because there were 15 seats and there were maybe 15 applications to go to Strasbourg the year that I applied. When I wanted to go and be involved in student politics, we did go and meet the premier when I was on the student union because the premier would ask to come and see us. That doesn't often happen in larger places. And the student of whom I'm speaking has since found a lot of opportunities with the provincial government here in New Brunswick, even though he has not even graduated yet. That kind of opportunity, I just think, is so present because of the scale here and the support that comes with that. I just think there's no way that I can stress that enough. It just really makes the difference. And it's one of the reasons I often say to students, I don't care if you come to this small school, but I hope you take a really good look at small schools out there because they will give you the kind of access that is very, very hard to come by at a bigger place. So keep that in mind as you carry on with the rest of this open house and explore more of the opportunities. I remind you again, mta.ca/open house has the full roster of events that are happening all through today, this evening, and into tomorrow. So we invite you to join us for all of those. I would like to take a moment to thank and acknowledge all of my colleagues who have joined us today for this session. And someone did ask and I answered it there, but we are recording this session and it will be posted online. That's our intention, is that your questions will actually be the questions that many people who are not able to attend at this time will have, and they'll be able to catch those on the other side of this. And again, we are here to serve and to support you and your students as they go through this process. So anything we can do to help, please reach out to us. You see my email address behind me. If I'm not the right person, I'll find the right person for you. Admissions@mta.ca is your go-to for the moment as you're in this pre-admission phase. And we look forward to working with you over the coming months, and we look forward to hosting you for the rest of this online open house. So once again, thank you to all of you on the panel. Thank you to all of us who joined and for all of your wonderful questions, and have a wonderful Thursday wherever you may be.